Hey, welcome back everyone. Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter here. This is a follow-up to the prior video in which I covered whether or not eBay was changing your listings to free shipping when that's not how you set the listings up originally, costing you money and time in the process. I had asked you in that video to leave me examples and stories of whether or not this has happened to you. And if you were sure that you had set the listings up correctly. And boy, oh boy, did you deliver. I mean, so many comments. There are over 300 comments the last time that I looked, some with a lot of detail in them. And as a result of this, putting the video series out and your comments together, this has gotten eBay's attention at the highest level. I told you previously about my communications with Jordan Sweetnam, the Executive Vice President of eBay in North America, and he then directed the issue over to Marnie Levine, who is the Vice President of Seller Operations and Engagement. And Marnie reached out to me yesterday to try to get some additional information from you so that the team over at eBay could hopefully help figure out what is going on here so this problem could be solved once and for all. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get into that, as well as some things that you could do in the meantime until this problem ultimately gets solved. And I'm going to go into also a few things that I learned from the comments that came through yesterday. But before I do, I want to share something from the app that can be an issue. Now, I don't list from the app at all. I never do. I always list from my desktop. So it's interesting, for me, after I did the prior video and it was, presented as this is just an app issue, although I don't think that's the case. But I went into the app and it was interesting for me to go in. Now, I use the app. I use the app to, accept offers and stuff like that, but I don't use it to list because I've heard in the past that there's lots of glitches and lots of problems with it. And this is just one example. But I wanted to go through it just to get my own experience and my own feel for it. And so I went in and I'm going to share my screen with you and show you something that I noticed. Okay, so let me just make this a little bit bigger. So this is what it shows you when you first sign on to it. Let me hide this right here. And it says, if you want to ship it, it says, I don't know the package details. You could click that. USPS priority mail, or you could set it up for something else. And then on the bottom, look at this. See where it defaults? It defaults to free shipping, free for the buyer, you pay. Now I know eBay's been watching this. So my first area of feedback is stop doing that. Okay. Stop defaulting to free for buyer. Just have it as an option and that the seller selects what they want. The seller knows whether or not they want free shipping or not. They don't want to feel like they're being pushed over to it. Even now, if eBay thinks that that's the right way to set it up, and as many of you know, I use a free shipping model, but convince people in other ways. Don't try to be pushy with it through the app, because this is some of the problems that start to occur. So that's the default. I'm going to argue that should not be the default. But now let's just say you do know the package details. You're going to set it up in advance. You want to do calculated shipping. So you're going to click, let's just say we click this button, USPS priority mail. And I just made something up. I just put in, package weight of 2 pounds and, 12 by 9 by 2 in terms of package dimensions here. Okay, now let's take a look. Okay, so we put that in. Now, you might think, especially if you're kind of relatively new, just starting out, you might say, all right, well, I heard that's what calculated shipping is, right? I pick the carrier that I want. I put in the weight. I put in the package dimensions, and that's calculated shipping, right? Won't eBay just automatically calculate that, and then it's the buyer who's going to pay the shipping? Well, no, look, even after you set all of that up, it still says free for buyer, and you as the seller pay between $8.25 and $14.90. And to make it even more confusing, it calls it calculated shipping on the bottom. Now, as sellers are kind of black and white with this in terms of, we think of it in two ways. We think of it as either calculated shipping or it's free shipping, not calculated free for the buyer or calculated free shipping. I mean, it's just, that's not how sellers think about it. So that's confusing when the app is set up that way. So that's another thing that would need to be changed so it's not confusing like that. So what you then need to do, if you want to adjust that, okay, you've got to click this part on the bottom, right where the red arrow is pointing, where it says free for buyer, you pay. You have to click that, and you see that's the default, free for buyer, you pay shipping, and it still has the word calculated in it. If you want to fix this and you want to make it so that the buyer actually pays calculated shipping, what you traditionally think of as calculated shipping, you now have to do another step. You have to click this next button, okay? And it says cost calculated based on the buyer's location. Buyer pays calculated shipping. And once you do that, now buyer pays $8.25 to $14.90 calculated shipping. All of that you have to do to get it to be calculated shipping. Now, I'm mentioning this because a couple reasons. One, I want to make sure that all sellers are aware of this, because if you're not aware of this and you're setting it up in the prior steps, then you're going to think that eBay switched it over to free shipping. So make sure that you know that, and that, you know, for a follow-up for this, I'm going to tell you some additional information we're going to need. Make sure that you know that this is definitely how you set it up if you list through the app, that you went through all this, and still after that, it still got switched over to free shipping, because that, you know, is a major problem if that is occurring, which it seems to be based on what everybody has mentioned. Now, another thing I want to mention, again, knowing eBay's watching this, is that sellers can't stand being put through multiple hoops like this. So sellers constantly say, make it easier for me. Make it easier for me to be able to list, to put stuff on there. Stop making me go through all these hoops. So that's another thing. Just make it easier. It should be so simple. It should be very easy. If I want to do free shipping, or if I want to do calculated, it should just be a simple drop-down menu right on that first screen that I showed you. That's it. No default over to free. Now, a few other things I want to mention. I got a lot of interesting feedback on that prior video. I haven't read through every comment yet. There's just so many, but I've read through the majority of them. So number one, it does not seem that this is a problem that is limited to the app. That's how it was initially presented, but there are a bunch of people who have commented that this is something that has also happened to people on desktop, that you didn't set it up free shipping and it still came across, it got changed. Now, not usually every one of them changed, but a bunch of them changed, and it wastes time because now you have to go through and you have to look through all of these listings to see which ones changed, which ones didn't. Some people said that it only changed when it changed over to best offer, which is another thing that eBay has acknowledged is going on, is that listings are getting changed over sometimes to best offer when that's not how you set it up. And they say they're trying to fix that, so hopefully that will get fixed. But now other people said it's just changing regardless of whether or not it's linked with the best offer change also. Some people are saying that listings are getting changed over to global shipping, and free global shipping too, free international shipping, when they didn't set things up that way. Some people said listings got shifted over from free to calculated, which is crazy. And by the way, I know a lot of these people a lot of you, I should say, who responded down below. So I was talking to eBay there for a moment. But my point is that a lot of people responding are very experienced sellers. This is not just, it can't just be chalked up to newbies, making mistakes. That's not what it is. So it's definitely a problem here going on, and it seems to be quite extensive. It's really an issue. Now, another thing that really bothers me is that when I hear stories that sellers are contacting eBay customer service and they're getting blamed for this. You can't blame sellers when it's not their fault. And if sellers are setting things up properly and things are getting switched, that's not our responsibility at that point. And another thing that disturbs me is that when sellers are being asked to then contact buyers and tell buyers that, hey, sorry, it should have been set up to have shipping on it and it was free shipping, so now here you've got to pay me for a shipping cost. As one person who commented correctly said, first of all, it's a very uncomfortable phone call to make. We shouldn't have to make that phone call. And number two, buyers are probably not going to believe you. They're going to think it's some kind of scam. So we shouldn't even be put in that position. And the last thing I'm going to say, and I'll preface this also by saying, before we get into some solutions and what eBay needs here, is that this is not an issue that's affecting me because I set up my listings. All my listings are free shipping. The vast majority of them are set up with best offers. And I do global shipping. So I have everything set up the way eBay really wants you to do it. But the way I look at it is that we're one big seller community. And even though this is not specifically affecting me, it's affecting people that I have, a good relationship with in the seller community. And what really came through very clearly, not just in the comments to the video, but also to me personally, is how emotional and how upset it is making people. I'm talking beyond just anger. We're talking a level of sadness and distress. And I want to dovetail this with something else that someone commented on, which is that, hey, this is just basic economics. eBay doesn't care about the sellers. They just care about the buyers. And if the sellers are going to get mad, then the sellers are just going to leave and eBay's just going to replace them with other sellers. Now, am I naive to the fact that that's how some businesses operate? Is it possible there's some people within eBay that think that way, very corporate mentality, that type of thing? I understand. I've been around the block a few times. I get it. Okay. But it doesn't change the fact that if what is going on is, as it's presented, is actually happening, that we still need a change and that this is not right for sellers. At the same time, it's also very important to communicate to eBay if that is a thought process that's going on anywhere in the company. Yeah, you could replace some sellers that leave, but it's much better off if you're focused on buyers. It is much better for eBay to have satisfied buyers by having satisfied sellers. So when you connect with your sellers and you develop a trusting relationship with them, and they don't feel like they're having to go through hoops and feeling like things are being switched on them against their will and feeling like, they're losing money. That's what you need to do. You need to change those types of things. And that ultimately leads to a better buyer experience. So helping sellers helps buyers. That's very, very important to make sure that's understood on the eBay level. I know people there do, but it's important to get that through if that's a thought process, again, that's going on. Now, another thing I want to emphasize, especially for anyone who's from eBay corporate that might be watching this, who's never listed anything before, has never sold anything before. It is very important to understand that many sellers use eBay as their sole source of income, and that many people are living, quote unquote, paycheck to paycheck or eBay payment to eBay payment. Okay. Not everyone who's selling on eBay is like some of the people who you watch on YouTube who are making over $100,000 a year. Not everyone who's selling on eBay is in a position like mine where I have a full-time separate job that I could afford it if my eBay business just crashes. Okay. Not everyone watching this can do that. In fact, probably a majority of people who are watching are in that type of situation in which they're using eBay, as a means to get by, or as a significant means to get by. So when I mention this, because when these issues happen, they're very emotional for sellers and they're very stressful for sellers. So this isn't something that's just easily be dismissed. If you're wiping out the majority of someone's profit or you're causing them to lose money because of this, it has to be fixed. So what are the next steps? Let's start with what Marnie Levine needs. This is very important. Okay. In response to this video, what you need to put down in the comment section, and if you want, you could copy and paste your prior comment from the prior video, but you need to include your seller ID, not your store name, your seller ID. And if you have it, this is something I'm adding. I just figured this would be helpful. Marnie asked for the seller ID and the team wants the seller ID, is to put in any item numbers that 100% were switched over. So with enough data, this is not going to be enough that we just have one case or two cases. We need as many cases as possible to come in so that eBay's team can try to work on this to fix this. Okay, now I also think changes need to happen within the app for this to happen, but some other things that you could, for change to happen, but things that you could do in the meantime. Most people who commented, even though there were some that said that there were changes made when they listed on desktop, a pattern that I did notice is that most people who said they listed on desktop only, including myself, have never had a problem. Although I would never have the problem because I never have it set up as calculated. So for me, it would never switch to free shipping because I always have that set up. But now there's going to be some people who watch this and say, well, that's great, but you did say, and I did in the prior video, that there are a lot of sellers who don't have a desktop. They don't have a laptop. They just have their phone, and that's how they list. If you're in that position, what I would suggest then is, unless you want to just keep going back and monitoring everything, because that's unfortunately what you're going to have to do if you don't want to do the next thing I'm suggesting. You're going to just have to go back and monitor like crazy all the time. It's be a big waste of time. I really would suggest trying to figure out a way to work the shipping cost into the price and set things up as a free shipping model. I have plenty of videos in which I describe exactly how to do that. It can be done. I do it with big items, with light items. Just look at my store. It will show you. The key to it, just to put it in wrap it up really quickly, is that you have to be able to source low and you have to have shipping mastered. You have to understand what your price points are, what your profit margins are in worst case shipping scenarios, and be able to implement that. It doesn't always mean you have to have an exact number. You just have to have a general knowledge base of the cost. Is this going to be something that's like a $3 item to ship, a $10 item to ship, a $20 to $30 item to ship? You need to know that generally and work that in. Now, if you do have an app and you're listing on the app, but you have desktop, what I would then suggest, if you like just the speed of listing on the app, because that's the appeal to a lot of people, is set it up on the app, but then close it out on desktop. That's what a lot of people have said that they've done that have helped them out. So that's what we need. I'm going to wait for the comments to come in. Hopefully a bunch of them come in throughout the weekend. I will then get back in touch with Marnie Levine and Jordan. I've already directed Jordan to the prior video, and I think Marnie saw that one as well. And so that's the reason why they need additional information. So please leave that down below. If you find this helpful, just make sure that you hit the like button and again, put a comment down as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. That also, all that sort of stuff helps to get the video traction, helps get it out there. Also, I think it's important to try to direct other people who you know over to these two videos to get them involved in this process, because that's the only way that changes is going to happen. Now, you won't have this problem affect you if you do have things set up with free shipping and most things set up with best offer. So that's one way you could just completely, totally avoid it. But I know that's not how everyone wants to set it up, but it's just, it's an option. It's a thing to do. So hopefully this helps us get some resolution. And if so, I will do further follow-up on it. But thanks everyone for getting involved and trying to make a positive change. I'll see everyone back at the next video, everyone. Take care.